Get the latest now on the extreme weather conditions in the US. Authorities ordered an evacuation of the National Mall in Washington after thunderstorms approached, threatening the festivities there. Storms came amid a dangerous heat wave in Washington, D.C. across most of the East Coast. On Saturday, the nation's capital was reported to be among the top 1% of hottest places on Earth. Here's our weather presenter, Simon King.
In the US, we saw that extreme heat wave, a big heat dome developing across the east of the United States, and temperatures in Washington, D.C., in Philadelphia, New York, they were getting up into the high 30s of Celsius. But when you add in the humidity, it would have felt like 46 degrees Celsius. So really dangerous heat there. Now, what happens when you get these situations with a big heat wave developing is that with a high humidity, that heat, it gives a lot of energy, lots of moisture can go into the atmosphere, and you just need a trigger. And for the case of the US, we've had a cold front moving its way southeastward across the US, and that brought the end to the stifling heat, but it ended with a big bang. So you didn't just have the fireworks, of course, for the Independence Day celebrations, but the lightning, the thunderstorms were really quite severe across eastern areas of the US through yesterday evening and night. And through today, we'll continue to see some quite big thunderstorms moving their way southeastward across the east of the US. The heat will be more concentrated down towards Virginia, North and South Carolina. So here temperatures once again getting up into the mid to high 30s, whereas it should start to feel a little bit more comfortable for the likes of New York and Washington and Philadelphia. Temperatures here should start to drop away in the coming days.
And Simon, just how common are weather events like this there?
Yeah, they are pretty common. I mean, the temperatures that we saw in some parts of the eastern states have been, very high. In fact, record-breaking for some locations. And while obviously you don't tend to get records being broken every year, we know that with our changing climate, that heat waves are becoming more intense. They are becoming hotter, more prolonged. So, it sets the scene to see these sort of records being broken in parts of the US. But of course, heat waves aren't unusual in the US, and it's not unusual either to see these big thunderstorms that develop on the back of these heat waves. So the US as well used to having severe weather like this. And of course, tornadoes, we know they are formed by these big storms developing after a period of hot weather, and then, some colder air coming in, and that can trigger things off to bring those storms.
And Simon, as we know, US not the only place experiencing these high temperatures, dangerous situation in some parts of Europe as well.
Yeah, so in Greece, we've seen recently some wildfires. Now, again, wildfires in Greece, aren't unusual. The summer is becoming longer there because it's heating up, it's drying out. So wildfires, have been seen already so far this summer, and we've seen one recently that's affected some pretty big populated areas. So the concern there, of course, as we go through the rest of the summer, is that we could still continue to have some wildfires with periods of heat building up. But elsewhere across Europe, well, again, we've got another heat wave on the way, the third of the year. So like we saw at the end of June with record temperatures being set, temperatures will slowly rise again across France and into the United Kingdom. Here we're going to see temperatures getting up into the mid-30s by the time we get into the middle part of the week. And while this heat wave isn't likely to be as extreme, the temperatures won't be as high as we saw in June. It's likely, actually, this heat wave could last longer. So forecasts at the moment suggest that the temperatures getting above 30 degrees Celsius across England, for example, could last for maybe 7 to even 10 consecutive days.
Thanks to Simon there. Residents of the US Pacific territories of Guam and Northern Marianas have moved to emergency evacuation centres. This is all ahead of the arrival of a Super Typhoon due to make landfall on Monday. National Weather Service has described it as very dangerous, has forecast to barrel through the territories with winds of 260 kilometres an hour, rains and big waves as well.